It was a gray November morning in Frankfurt when my life took a dramatic turn. The glass facade of the private German bank where I worked as an analyst reflected the gloomy sky, a fitting frame for my state of mind at the time. At 26, I had what many would consider a secure job, but I felt trapped in the monotony of banking life. Thomas, a colleague from the IT department, approached me in the cafeteria that day. He was different from typical bankers, no tie, wild beard, and spoke with an enthusiasm rare in our environment. "You need to look into Ethereum," he said, his eyes gleaming. "It's going to revolutionize the financial world." Usually skeptical of investment tips, something about Thomas's conviction sparked my curiosity. In the following weeks, I immersed myself in research about blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. What I discovered fascinated me: a vision of decentralized financial systems, of freedom and innovation. With my modest savings of €15,000, I made a decision that mocked my conservative banking education. I invested everything in Ethereum. My hands trembled as I made the transfer. It felt like jumping into cold water, but also like the first self-determined financial decision of my life. The autumn of 2017 brought developments that exceeded even my wildest dreams. My Ethereum investment literally exploded in value. Within a few months, my initial €15,000 had grown to nearly $1 million. I often stared at my screen for minutes, unable to comprehend that these numbers were real. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on me. While I spent my days at the bank advising clients on secure investments with 0.5% returns, I had personally achieved gains of almost 7,000%. A guilty conscience gnawed at me, but the bank's strict compliance rules prohibited me from discussing cryptocurrencies. During this time, I only confided in 3 people: my separated parents and my best friend Mark. The reactions couldn't have been more different. My mother, an elementary school teacher from the Black Forest, responded with cautious joy and a gentle reminder to stay grounded. My father, a retired insurance broker, suddenly saw his son as a financial genius. The worst part wasn't the money, it was the change in relationships. Family gatherings became uncomfortable meetings where everyone knew who owed what to whom. Phone calls with my parents increasingly revolved around financial difficulties. Even Mark, my best friend since school days, eventually asked for a small loan for his startup. In my 2-room apartment, surrounded by IKEA furniture and managing my €1 million fortune on a rickety laptop, I realized money doesn't just change the person who has it, it primarily changes the people around them. While my crypto portfolio grew, my trust in the people once closest to me diminished. The burden of family expectations and unpaid loans weighed heavily on me. One night, while restlessly scrolling through crypto forums, I stumbled upon EOSBet and Dice, crypto casinos operating on blockchain technology. The mathematician in me was fascinated by the system's transparency and verifiable odds. Initially, it was an intellectual experiment. I developed strategies, calculated probabilities, and meticulously documented every bet in spreadsheets. Using a small portion of my Ethereum fortune, I began to play, at first cautiously and methodically. The first wins came surprisingly quickly. My strategy was conservative: small stakes, strict loss limits, emotionless decisions. In the first months, I won consistently, accumulating 9,000 EOS that seemed to validate my methodology. I felt invincible, as if I had cracked the code of luck. During this time, my daily routine changed imperceptibly. I spent my lunch breaks alone with my smartphone checking prices instead of in the bank cafeteria. I woke up at night to check my positions. The feeling of control became an obsession. Then came that one fateful day in late spring. The crypto market had already shown signs of weakness, but I was convinced I could offset my losses through clever trading. In a bout of overconfidence, I increased my stakes at EOSBet. The first losses came quickly, but instead of stopping, I tried to win them back. It was like a trance. Within 24 hours, I lost not only all the gains of recent months, but also a significant portion of my original fortune. When I finally stopped, I was emotionally numb. The screen before me showed numbers I didn't want to accept. But instead of learning from this, I fell into a dangerous spiral. I began buying dice tokens, not strategically but impulsively. The thought of having to quickly make up for the losses drove me. The monthly requests for help from my family weighed heavily on me, and I saw gambling as a way out. At the bank, I became distracted. Colleagues noticed my absent-mindedness, but I blamed it on personal problems. The summer of 2018 brought not only a dramatic crash in the crypto market, but also my personal low point. My once proud portfolio had shrunk to a third of its peak value. The combination of falling prices, gambling losses, and constant financial obligations to my family took a toll on my mental health. At the bank, my situation became untenable. During an important client presentation, I completely lost my thread when my phone notified me of another price crash in dice. My department head noticed my trembling hands and the beads of sweat on my forehead. He kindly suggested I take some time off. At home, I received a message from my father. He had borrowed money from a loan shark because I had rejected his last 2 requests for help. The interest rates were astronomical, and he expected me to rescue him from this situation. At the same moment, my mother wrote that the repayment for her heating system would be further delayed, as she had used the money for her sick cat's operation. That night, I experienced my first panic attack. The walls of my small apartment seemed to close in on me. My laptop displayed the falling prices of EOS and DICE, while WhatsApp messages from my family piled up. I couldn't distinguish what was worse, the dwindling fortune or the crushing responsibility for others' financial well-being. A desperate attempt to salvage the situation through more dice purchases only made everything worse. I was investing emotionally, not rationally, and lost further substantial sums. The realization hit me like a blow. I had become what I had always despised in my banking career, a desperate speculator who had lost control. One morning, I stood in front of my closet, staring at the row of identical bank suits. Each one felt like a straitjacket. The realization hit me with full force. I had lost myself so much in others' expectations and my self-imposed role as the successful son that I had forgotten what truly mattered. That day, I called my boss and resigned. His reaction, a mixture of understanding and relief, showed me that he had seen my breakdown coming. When I hung up, I felt peace for the first time in months. The weeks after my resignation were like an awakening. I sold almost everything I owned, which wasn't much for someone who had once been a millionaire. Clearing out my sparsely furnished 2-room apartment took less than 2 days. I informed my family of my decision by email, explaining that I could no longer function as their private bank and that outstanding loans should be considered gifts on the condition they stop asking for money. The decision to go to Africa wasn't sudden. I had researched for months, read blogs, chatted with expatriates. I chose a small country in East Africa that was politically stable and had an emerging tech scene. With my remaining DICE tokens and EOS, I still had enough to live modestly there for several years. Now I sit here in a small bar on the edge of the city, watching the sun set while enjoying a beer that costs the equivalent of 60 cents. The past 2 months have taught me more than all my years in finance. I teach young programmers at a local tech hub twice a week, sharing my knowledge about blockchain technology. They see cryptocurrency not as a speculative tool, but as a means for true financial independence. I hear little from my family now. My mother occasionally sends messages about her daily life without asking for money. This new, honest relationship is worth more than all the loans I ever gave. My father has cut contact, but I now feel this as liberation. Life here is simple but fulfilling. My daily budget is less than what I used to spend on a coffee to go, yet I feel richer than ever before. I've learned that true happiness lies not in the number of zeros in your bank account, but in the freedom to follow your own path.